In a small, quiet village in Ubon Ratchathani, where the Mekong River whispered old stories to the shore, a young boy named Somchai Jaidee lived. His world was painted with the green of rice paddies and the gold of the setting sun. But inside his heart, the world was much bigger. It was filled with tall buildings that touched the clouds and important-looking people in sharp suits. Somchai didn't just want to see that world, he wanted to build it. He would tell his mother, his hands sketching invisible towers in the air, "One day, I will be a CEO." She would smile, a gentle, knowing smile. She didn't see the fantasy. She saw the fire in her son's eyes. It was a fire that the gentle village rains could never put out. His father was a farmer, a man whose hands were etched with the story of hard work. From him, Somchai learned about seasons, about planting seeds, and about waiting patiently for the harvest. He learned that nothing good comes without effort. While his friends played in the dusty lanes, Somchai would sit with his father's old, worn-out business magazines that a cousin from the city had left behind. He couldn't understand all the words, but he understood the pictures. He saw graphs that climbed like mountains, and faces that looked confident and in charge. He would trace the headlines with his small finger, sounding out the strange English words, each one a seed planted in the fertile ground of his imagination. The village school was a simple wooden building with one room for all the children. The teacher was kind, but the lessons were basic. Somchai, however, was a sponge. He soaked up every drop of knowledge he could. He learned his numbers not just by counting coconuts, but by pretending they were profits. He learned his letters not just to write his name, but to imagine signing important contracts. He was a boy dreaming in a language his village didn't speak. He knew, with a certainty that was both innocent and profound, that his journey would have to take him far away from the familiar comfort of the rice fields and the gentle flow of the river he called home. This dream wasn't just a fleeting thought, it was the rhythm of his young life. It was in the way he organized his toys into neat rows, pretending they were his employees. It was in the way he would stand on a small stool, giving speeches to the family's water buffaloes about market share and quarterly goals. People in the village would chuckle. "Look at little Somchai," they would say, playing the big boss. But it was never a game to him. It was a rehearsal. He was preparing for a stage he had never seen, for a life he was determined to live. He was Somchai Jaidee, the boy from the village, with a sky full of dreams. When Somchai turned 13, a door opened. It was a small door, but to him, it looked as grand as a palace gate. He had earned a place at Ubon Ratchathani school, a well-regarded school in the city. This meant leaving his village, his family, and everything he had ever known. The night before he left, his mother packed his small bag with 2 new shirts and his favorite mango sticky rice. She didn't say much, but her tears were a language he understood. His father placed a hand on his shoulder, a firm, steady pressure that said, "Be strong. We are proud." Somchai held back his own tears. He was scared, but the dream was bigger than the fear. The city was a shock to his senses. It was a symphony of noise, the roar of motorcycles, the chatter of crowded markets, the distant hum of something he couldn't name. It was so different from the village's gentle lullaby of crickets and frogs. At Ubon Ratchathani school, he was no longer the smartest boy in the room. He was just another face in a sea of uniforms, a boy with a country accent and worn-out shoes. The lessons were harder, the competition was fierce, and for the first time, Somchai felt a flicker of doubt. Could a boy from a rice paddy really compete with the children of city merchants and officials? He found his answer not in giving up, but in working harder. He woke up before the sun, using the quiet morning hours to go over his lessons. He stayed late in the library, the smell of old books becoming a strange kind of comfort. He learned to listen more than he spoke, absorbing the rhythms of city life, the new slang, the different way of thinking. He made friends, slowly at first. They were drawn to his quiet determination, his genuine kindness. He helped them with their math, and they helped him with his English pronunciation. He was building a bridge not just from the village to the city, but from the boy he was to the man he wanted to become. The years at Ubon Ratchathani were a crucible. They forged him, hardened him, and shaped him. He learned that talent wasn't enough. You needed grit. He learned that failure wasn't the end. It was a lesson. Every test he struggled with, every time he felt homesick, every moment of self-doubt was a stepping stone. He was laying the foundation for his future, one difficult day at a time. When he graduated, he wasn't just a boy with a diploma. He was a young man who understood the price of a dream, and he knew his journey was just beginning. The next stop was even bigger, louder and more challenging. Bangkok. Bangkok. The name itself felt like a promise and a threat. It was the city from his father's magazines, a sprawling concrete jungle of opportunity and anonymity. Somchai arrived with one suitcase and a scholarship to Sripatum University, where he would major in business English communication. The campus was vast, a world within a world. He was surrounded by thousands of students, each with their own story, their own ambition. For a moment, standing there, he felt incredibly small, a single drop of water in an endless ocean. The dream of being a CEO felt so distant, almost laughably so, but then he remembered his father's hand on his shoulder and his mother's tears. He could not put off his ambition. University life was a balancing act on a tightrope. His scholarship covered tuition, but Bangkok was an expensive city. To survive, Somchai had to work. He took on any part-time job he could find. He was a waiter in a bustling restaurant, learning to carry 3 plates at once while smiling at demanding customers. He worked as a cashier in a convenience store, the late-night shifts blurring into early morning classes. He tutored younger students in English, his own struggles making him a patient and understanding teacher. These jobs taught him more than any textbook could. They taught him about people, about resilience, and about the value of a hard-earned baht. He knew he couldn't just work and study, he had to connect. He pushed himself out of his comfort zone and joined the university's business club. At first he was intimidated. The other members were confident, articulate, and seemed to know everything. Somchai listened, learned, and slowly found his voice. He volunteered to help organize events, staying late to set up chairs and prepare materials. He wasn't the star, but he was reliable. He was the one people could count on. Through the club, he began to understand the real-world application of his studies, learning to network, to collaborate, and to lead in small ways. He celebrated small victories, like a successful club meeting or positive feedback from a professor. There were ups and downs, of course. There were moments of crushing loneliness, of missing the simple life of his village. There were exams he barely passed, projects that fell short, and times when his bank account was empty. But with every challenge, he grew stronger. He learned to manage his time, to prioritize his tasks, and to never lose sight of the bigger picture. He helped his friends when they struggled, offering a kind word or sharing his notes, building a network of support that became his new family. Bangkok was no longer just a concrete jungle, it was his training ground. It was the place where Somchai Jaidee was learning not just how to survive, but how to thrive. After graduation, Somchai traded his student ID for a corporate access card. He stepped into the professional world, not as a CEO, but as a junior executive in a mid-sized import-export company. The office was a maze of cubicles, the air thick with the scent of coffee and ambition. It was a long way from the corner office of his dreams, but it was a start. He remembered his father telling him that the tallest tree begins as a small seed. Somchai was determined to be the most dedicated seed in the entire forest. He arrived early, he stayed late, and he took on the tasks no one else wanted. He was planting his roots. He learned the corporate language, a dialect of acronyms, deadlines, and deliverables. He learned to circle back, touch base, and think outside the box. He saw how decisions were made, how teams collaborated, and how conflicts were resolved. It was a complex dance, and he was a clumsy beginner. He made mistakes. He once sent a critical report to the wrong client list, a blunder that nearly cost the company a major account. His boss was furious. For a full day, Somchai was certain he would be fired. He felt the familiar sting of failure, the cold dread in the pit of his stomach. But he didn't hide. He didn't make excuses. He went to his boss, apologized sincerely, and presented a detailed plan for how he would fix the error and ensure it never happened again. His boss, a stern but fair man named Mr. Virat, saw something in the young man's response. He saw not just remorse, but responsibility. He saw grit. Mr. Virat didn't fire Somchai. Instead, he started giving him more challenging assignments, testing him, pushing him. He became an unlikely mentor, his sharp criticisms often hiding valuable lessons. Somchai learned to listen to the feedback, to swallow his pride, and to grow. Slowly, painstakingly, Somchai began to climb. He was promoted from junior executive to team coordinator, then to assistant manager. Each step up the ladder came with more responsibility, more pressure, and more opportunities to prove himself. He never forgot the people who helped him along the way. The security guard who always had a smile for him in the morning, the administrative assistant who showed him how to navigate the company's bureaucracy, Mr. Virat, who saw potential in his biggest mistake. He built connections not for personal gain, but out of genuine respect and camaraderie. He was learning that leadership wasn't just about giving orders, it was about building relationships. Years passed. The boy from Ubon Ratchathani was now a man. Today, Somchai Jaidee is a senior manager. He has an office with a glass wall that overlooks the glittering Bangkok skyline. The tall buildings he once sketched in the air are now his daily view. He wears the sharp suits he once saw in magazines, but he has not forgotten the feel of village dust between his toes or the weight of his mother's hopes. Today, he is leading a crucial meeting. His team, a mix of bright young graduates and seasoned veterans, is gathered around a large mahogany table in the conference room. The atmosphere is tense. A major project has hit a snag, and morale is low. Somchai stands at the head of the table. He is calm, his presence steadying. He doesn't start with reprimands or pressure. He starts with a story, a short, humorous story about his first ever attempt to sell something as a boy, a lopsided basket he had woven himself. The team chuckles, and the tension in the room eases slightly. He has their attention. Alright team, we've run into a problem, but every problem is just a poorly disguised opportunity. Before we dive into the specifics of this project, I want to take a step back. I want us to reflect on how we work together, specifically how we meet. Because effective meetings are where we solve problems, not create them. I've noticed our recent meetings have been a bit chaotic. We've been putting off making real decisions. So, I've brought in a couple of short training videos. I want us to watch them together, and then we can get down to business with a fresh perspective. Let's not just work hard, let's work smart. We need to leverage our collective intelligence, and that starts with running a tight ship in this very room. We need to synergize our efforts, not just talk in circles. This is a chance for us to reset and move forward with a clear strategy. The team members exchange curious glances. This is not what they expected. They expected a lecture, a demand for immediate solutions. Instead, their manager is offering them a tool, a lesson. Somchai looks around the room, making eye contact with each person. He knows their strengths, their weaknesses, their anxieties. He knows that leadership isn't just about hitting targets, it's about developing people. It's about turning a group of individuals into a cohesive, high-performing team. The dream he had as a boy wasn't just about being a CEO. It was about being a leader, and his real work was just beginning. The screen flickers to life. A title appears in bold, clean letters. How to organize an effective meeting? Every great outcome starts with a great process. A meeting isn't just a block of time in your calendar, it's a tool. To use it effectively, you must master its 3 distinct stages: the pre-meeting, the during meeting, and the post-meeting. Somchai watches his team, seeing them lean forward, pens ready. He knows this foundational knowledge is crucial. Without structure, their energy would dissipate like steam. They needed a container for their ideas, a framework for action. The video first details the pre-meeting stage. This is where 70% of a meeting's success is determined. First, define the purpose. Why are you meeting? If you can't answer this in one sentence, cancel the meeting. Second, set clear objectives. What tangible outcomes must be achieved by the end? Third, create a detailed agenda with timings for each topic. This is your roadmap. Fourth, sort out the logistics. Book the right room, ensure technology works. Fifth, prepare and send out all necessary materials at least 48 hours in advance. Finally, carefully select and notify the invitees. Every person in the room should have a clear reason for being there. Next, the video transitions to the during meeting stage. Your role as the leader is to be a facilitator. Start on time, every time. Stick to the agenda. Encourage balanced participation. Don't let 1 or 2 voices dominate the conversation. Keep the discussion focused and concise. When people go off on a tangent, gently bring them back. Your job is to steer the ship, not let it drift. The goal is clarity, not confusion. Use visuals, capture key points on a whiteboard, and ensure everyone understands what is being discussed before moving on to the next item. This is where you call on your team's expertise and get everyone to buy in. Finally, the video covers the post-meeting stage. The meeting doesn't end when people leave the room. The real work is just beginning. Immediately after, review the outcomes and decisions made. Assign clear action items to specific individuals with concrete deadlines. Who does what by when? This is the most critical step. Within 24 hours, write up and circulate concise meeting notes or minutes to all participants and relevant stakeholders. These notes should highlight key decisions and the action plan. This creates accountability and ensures that the momentum you've built is carried forward. Without this follow-through, the meeting was just a conversation. The video ends and the room is quiet, thoughtful. Somchai allows a moment for the information to sink in before clicking the remote again. That was the what. This next video is the how. It's about the small habits that make a big difference. The screen lights up with a new title: 8 Practical Tips for Better Meetings. Ready to transform your meetings from dreadful to dynamic? Here are 8 simple tips you can implement today. The team members, who had started to sit back, now lean forward again. Their interest peaked. They recognize the value in these practical, actionable steps. Tip 1. Decide if the meeting is necessary at all. Could this be handled with an email or a quick chat? Respect people's time. Tip 2. Invite only the key people. A smaller group is often more decisive and efficient. Don't invite people just in case. Tip 3. Set clear expectations in the invitation itself. Every invite should include the purpose, objectives, and agenda. Tip 4. The meeting starts with the invitation. This simple act of preparation sets the tone for a focused and productive session. It tells everyone that this meeting will be worth their time and attention, and it allows them to prepare properly. The video continues, its pace brisk and engaging. Tip 5. Preview the topics at the beginning of the meeting. Briefly go over the agenda and the desired outcomes. This gets everyone on the same page from the start. Tip 6. Stay on topic. As the leader, it's your job to be a polite parking lot attendant. If a new, unrelated idea comes up, acknowledge it, write it down in a parking lot space on the whiteboard, and promise to deal with it later. Then, steer the conversation back to the agenda. This keeps the meeting on track and respects the original purpose. Tip 7. Agree on the next goals before you end. The last 5 minutes of any meeting should be dedicated to confirming action items and deadlines. Everyone should leave the room knowing exactly what is expected of them. And finally, Tip 8. Allow for a coffee break in longer meetings. For any meeting scheduled for more than 90 minutes, a short break can reset energy levels and improve focus. A tired mind cannot produce brilliant ideas. The video fades to black. Somchai turns on the lights. Okay, let's try this. Let's reboot our project, starting with a proper meeting. Right here, right now. Who wants to start with our primary objective? The energy in the room has shifted. It is no longer tense, but focused, ready, and collaborative. The path from that conference room to project success was not a straight line. It was filled with the messy human realities of any ambitious endeavor. There were heated disagreements, moments when the team's synergy fractured under pressure. One of the lead engineers, a brilliant but stubborn man named Kenji, clashed with the marketing lead over the project's timeline. The tension was so thick you could feel it. Instead of taking sides, Somchai pulled them both aside. He didn't focus on who was right, he focused on the shared goal. He facilitated a difficult conversation, helping them find a compromise that leveraged Kenji's realism and marketing's ambition. It was a lesson in mediation he had learned, not in a textbook but from watching his parents resolve village disputes. There were failures. A key supplier backed out at the last minute, throwing their entire production schedule into chaos. The team was despondent. They saw a dead end. Somchai saw a detour. He called an emergency meeting, a well-organized one this time, and they brainstormed for hours. He encouraged wild ideas, creating a safe space where no suggestion was too foolish. The breakthrough came from a junior team member who, emboldened by the new meeting culture, shyly suggested a smaller local supplier no one had considered. They looked into it, and it turned out to be the perfect solution. It was a reminder that good ideas can come from anywhere if you create an environment where people feel heard. Somchai's own struggles were constant. The weight of responsibility was heavy, leading to sleepless nights spent staring at spreadsheets, searching for a competitive edge. He faced pressure from his own superiors who wanted results yesterday. There were days he felt like an imposter, a village boy playing in a world he didn't belong in. In those moments, he would call his mother. He wouldn't talk about business or strategies. He would ask about the farm, about his old friends, about the mango trees. Her calm, simple words would ground him, reminding him of where he came from and the quiet strength that was his foundation. These calls were his secret weapon against the crushing weight of corporate life. Through it all, he never put off his ambitions. Every setback was analyzed, every failure became a lesson, every human connection was nurtured. The project was finally completed, not just on time, but with better results than anyone had anticipated. The success wasn't just in the numbers on the final report, it was in the way the team now worked together. A cohesive unit that trusted and respected each other. It was in the confidence of the junior member who had found her voice. It was in the newfound respect between Kenji and the marketing lead. Somchai had not only delivered a project, he had built a team. He had achieved a piece of his dream. Today is June 17, 2025. Somchai stands by the glass wall of his office, looking down at the river of headlights flowing through the Bangkok night. The city is a galaxy of lights, each one a story, a dream, a struggle. He sees his own reflection in the glass, a man in a sharp suit, the picture of success he had once taped to his bedroom wall, in a small wooden house in Ubon Ratchathani. He thinks of the boy he was, full of impossible dreams, and the journey that had felt both impossibly long and startlingly short. It was a journey paved with hard work, small kindnesses, and a stubborn refusal to give up. He remembers the feeling of his father's calloused hand on his, teaching him to plant rice. He learned then that you must bend to plant the seed, but you stand tall for the harvest. He remembers the fear and excitement of moving to the city, the loneliness of his first days in Bangkok, and the quiet pride of cashing his first paycheck from a part-time job. Each memory is a thread, woven together to create the fabric of his life. He understands now that the struggles were not obstacles to his dream, they were the dream itself. The journey was the destination. He has achieved so much of what he set out to do. He is a leader. He makes important decisions. He helps his company grow, but he knows the journey is not over. The dream of being a CEO is closer than ever, but he has learned that the title is not the prize. The prize is the growth, the learning, the ability to lift others up with him. The prize is in becoming a person his parents would be proud of, a person that young boy, dreaming by the Mekong River, would admire. He still has that fire in his eyes, the same fire that his mother saw so many years ago. A young intern pokes his head into the office. "Kun Somchai, do you have a moment?" he asks timidly. Somchai turns from the window, a warm, encouraging smile on his face. He sees the same mix of fear and ambition in the young man's eyes that he once saw in his own. He motions for him to come in. As the intern begins to speak, Somchai thinks about the path ahead, the lessons still to learn, the people still to meet. He thinks about the endless sky that still holds so many dreams, and a quiet, powerful thought settles in his mind, a quote he has come to live by: "Believe in the journey, for it is in the twists and turns that you find your true direction. Never stop learning, for the moment you do, you stop growing."